Betsy and Thomas here. After 5 minutes of arguing, we've decided to start our program, right, Thomas?
That's right, Betsy.
Arguing how to start the format. And this is what it is, Thomas. I need to bring people up to speed because there seems to be some confusion about some of the formats that we've posted lately, and I want to make sure the community knows what we're doing. May I have permission?
This is very important stuff, especially that we got banned.
Yes, we also got banned. So these are important notes. All right, the first thing is you've noticed that we've had 4 videos that had a snazzy little opening, and it was an interview with Michael and Douglas. We wanted to make sure that we had rounded out the story about the theft of social media and how this is very relevant today when we see things playing out in the news. So this is just a once... There are 4 of them. That's it. I haven't changed the format. Betsy's still around. I realize that the set it's not, an InfoWars set, but folks, we're just doing the best we can to get the information out. And so many of you say that you seem to resonate with it better when you can see the folks talking. So that's why you had Douglas and Michael McKibben right there in front of your face. Now that's over, and unless there's something else to say, we won't be doing any more of those. Now, the other one is our New Awakening series. And oh my gosh, I know I awoke a lot of people with that. But look, it's not just good enough at this point to see where we are. And we have to move forward in our thinking. We have to see what the new world is after this thing that we have here is cleaned up. So this is where we bring in our own cosmology and we move you forward. Now, our cosmology is based upon a worldview that encompasses Christianity, but certainly is not limited to Christianity. And so if that offends you, don't open up any videos you see from us where you see Douglas against a black background with big red letters. Those big red letters with his picture should tell you we're going deep. If you want to come with us, okay, and if you don't open it. Is that fair, would you say?
That's quite fair, yes.
Okay, quite fair, because we are going places where no one has dared to go before, at least in the YouTube land. Now, we did get censored by YouTube by our last video, no name mentioned and everything, but don't worry. If you really like hearing what we have to say, you'll want to subscribe to our Truth News Headlines Daily, and this can be found at aimfortruth.org. The reason you want to do this, if you want to continue to hear what we say, is because we may start putting some of our more controversial and deep dive videos on political subjects on our private network. And if you can't take the time to cross the bridge and put a little subscription thing over on our website, well, I'm sorry, you're just going to miss out on the great things that we have to say. And finally, to those of you who want to know what Betsy looks like, let me tell you, she looks best in your imagination. So don't think for 1 minute you're going to get me on a video because then I have to do my hair and all that. It just takes too much time. Okay? Now, that's enough said. You want to talk about the memo from the Democrats.
No, I want to say that Betsy's actually very beautiful, and you all would be lucky to see her picture. But if you play the glass bead game, you can see a picture.
Yeah, I have some pictures out there.
And so the deal is your work with your team and the 4 videos with Michael McKibben that you produced are beautiful, and they go along kind of with the 6, I think, that you produced with Michael McKibben in another studio. And
no, it was a hotel room. Okay? And
sorry, hotel room.
And folks, we're out here, we're like your grandparents, we barely know technology. Just for us to get a cameraman to shoot it on us, that's a big deal.
See, you're a traveling journalist. You really went out there and you got the news.
We went out to the story.
So, I think it's really good, and you're absolutely right. And these videos that you mentioned that are the bridge between some of your sites. Y'all don't know Betsy, let me tell you. You may know a few of her names, but trust me, you don't know all of her names. And she has numerous sites. And if you are someone who wants to notice that we are oftentimes ahead of the curve, and if you get your Truth News headlines like I do and all the Conclave members do, directly to as an email, it's always kept there, so you can always go back and reference everything, and it's directly sent to you. And if you do not read that before you go out to look for news, you're going to get lost. If you read that, you're going to say, whoa, how did they aggregate news from places I would have never found it? And without that, you will be missing principal pieces to the puzzle. oftentimes the faces of the guilty. So you really do need to keep up with truth news headlines. There really is nothing that's better than that. The entire conclave sends me their finds from the field, and it is very few, because once they read truth news headlines morning and evening, they already have the news. And then they better be ready to discuss it in the news cycle that it's happening, because otherwise Betsy and her team moves on. Now, right, because that's really, what I had to say about that.
Yeah, because really I prepare, and we work towards preparing this for you, Thomas, because we want you to read what we saw out on the terrain today so that you can incorporate it. Now, you've done that this morning. You've read the memos with all this, and you've incorporated it. Now you want to give us some feedback on what it is you found.
Okay, so let's frame this first. The Intelligence Committee in the House is not rigged like the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, where Mark Warner in March of 2016 contacted Christopher Steele, the man who wrote the garbage dossier, the Trump-Russian garbage dossier, and tried to solicit dirt on Trump from him directly. That's the reason the Senate is not investigating this. That is disgusting and sick. And Mark Warner needs to be kicked out of that committee because of actions he took against the United States of America. Same thing happened with Adam Schiff, the man who wrote the response to Nunes' memo. Adam Schiff, I forget, during the election, right after, I think after he became president, don't quote me on this. All I remember it when it happened. 2 Russian comedians got Adam Schiff on the phone after getting through all of his people and convincing them that they were 2 major players in Russia. And Schiff gets on the phone, and little Adam says, yeah, sure, I'll be glad to buy Trump dirt. You know, what do I got to do? Who do I got to send? What do I got to do? I'll do anything for Trump dirt. And he is sitting on the House Intelligence Committee, and he's the person fighting against Devin Nunes, whose beautiful memo was not even partisan. It was simply a legal statement about fact that had been, of course, declassified by the White House and every other of the 17 intelligence agencies. All looked at it, and they made sure it was either redacted or it was declassified so that we Americans could read what was 2,000 pages that was reluctantly pulled, like pulling teeth from the Department of Justice and the FBI to get those 2,000 pages. And when then they limited only 4 people to look at that and their aides, that's where this memo war came out. Now remember, Devin Nunes wrote his. It shook the world. Adam Schiff didn't have to have anybody approve his, because all he wrote about was what was in Devin Nunes's as a rebuttal, not as anything new. But then you'll notice that it's redacted. But if you look, it's unbelievable. It's so childish. This is so preschoolish. It's redacted so that you still get a message from the words that aren't redacted that makes somebody look guilty. None of it needed to be redacted if it was in fact referring to Nunes' memo, which was all declassified. So even the redactions are stupid. But if you read them, every single principal phrase in Adam Schiff's response is a lie. And it acts like we didn't read anything except Nunes' memo. But we have all the Grassley's done. We've had all the other committees in the Senate and in the Congress, and their investigations that are simultaneously going on that have revealed many things to us, which prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, especially the court cases in Britain and in America against Christopher Steele, the British spy, who basically they say is the author of the dossier. Incorrect. He is one of many authors of the dossier. Cody Shearer being another one. A dossier that was passed on by Bruce Orr, which is mentioned in Adam Schiff's ridiculous rebuttal, as he calls it. And then, by the way, Nunes wrote a rebuttal to Schiff's rebuttal. And Adam Schiff wrote a rebuttal to Nunes' rebuttal, yes. So now the last word is Schiff, where he comes out and repeats what he said in his first rebuttal, all lies, so that the mainstream media can now go in without any redactions and just take his lie phrases, his accusations, and put them on the media. They won't put anything that Nunes wrote as his rebuttal, which demonstrated that literally Adam Schiff just plain out lies. He just makes stuff up. And what he most especially liked to do was, as we have pointed out, and we were some of the only people pointing this out. Over and over and over again, you've heard us make this distinction. Do not confuse the Russian dossier, which had Carter Page, Michael Cohen in it, and a bunch of other people, but though it was through Carter Page, who Adam Schiff doesn't seem to mention in his rebuttal that Carter Page was an undercover agent for the FBI working against Russians. He wasn't a Russian spy. So to get a dossier, to use the dossier, which is principally focused on him, as a way to get a FISA Title I domestic investigation on a Russian spy who they used against Russian spies right before that. They only finished that case of using Carter Page as an undercover agent after Carter Page had already joined as a volunteer and really didn't do anything and never talked to Trump, and they put a restraining order on him because he was a nutcase. And then, of course, he went to Russia. Who do you think paid for the trip to Russia? Who do you think set it up? And then they said he talked to officials. Adam Schiff says he talked to officials. Lie! Adam Schiff, did you read the memo? Did you read the 2,000 pages that were given that created the memo? You can't just make stuff up, Adam. But he did. And that's the reason Trump just called him a liar. Well, maybe it's just lies. It's stupid lies. And he puts together the Papadopoulos counterintelligence investigation with the Carter Page dossier. And every time he wants to make a lie, he flips them back and forth. But what he doesn't know, because he's too stupid, I guess, is Sergei Million Pachenko, who doesn't use his last name because he was an undercover agent for the FBI working as a Russian double spy. He's mentioned in the dossier. He befriended George Papadopoulos. And so therefore he was included both with the Carter Page dossier and with the counterintelligence investigation. And so there is a connection. There's more than a connection. Plus we know that the connection was there anyway because of the leaks that went out and so on and so forth. And Schiff doesn't seem to have followed anything in the news, anything with Christopher Steele's lawsuits and Christopher Steele's own testimony. And now, of course, Nunes reminds him, no, Grassley has asked for a criminal investigation of Steele because of all of his lies.
You call this a memo war. Well, that's what an information war is. Folks, we're in an information war, and the more information you have, those are bullets and bombs that you can use against the enemy. So that's what it is. Now, where does Adam Schiff get his information?
I think Adam Schiff didn't do anything more than read Nunes' memo, get it all messed up in his head. He went to the mainstream media, and I believe he had mainstream media help the very people who are going down with this. Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, Yahoo News, Mother Jones, and BuzzFeed, ultimately. I think they all got together and wrote the lines they needed to put on the mainstream media and gave it to Adam Schiff. That's what it looks like to me, the rebuttal at the end.
Well, that's what I get for trying to take a breath between sentences.
Oh, I'm sorry, Betsy.
Yeah. No, because there's just something, someone called the other day and they were so upset. They said, oh my gosh, this Florida shooting and everything, and we're going to guns, and they're there, and it's George Soros, and it's the globalists, and they're coming in, and they're going to defeat us. I go, let's get a grip here. Let's say that George Soros was interested in creating a civil war. Okay, so what are you saying? It would be the liberals versus the conservatives? I don't know. Is that how you see that? And they said, yes, that's how I see it. I go, they don't own guns. They've been told by their own team that guns are not good to have. And then all the rest of the Patriots, maybe we have 6 per household. I don't know, but we have guns. And we understand that the guns are there ultimately to protect us from a tyrannical government. So if that were the case, they would lose. Now, let's say that that's not the field of war, because you have to imagine there's a physical plane of war, but there's also an intellectual and informational plane of war, and that's where we, Thomas, like to do most of our work. So in this information war, you, the listener, you have a great place to get truth news. And you are looking at alternative media and you're getting smarter. What do they have to look for? They're told that we're fake news, so they're not going to look here. Instead, they're looking at their own news, CNN, NBC, all this stuff. That includes their legislators. And then On top of that, they are only reading their fake news. The intelligence community is not giving them the truth. So he is operating in a silo of no information, really. So we'll win that war too. Now you can talk. I just want to make sure people get it. You have to look at war in different ways. Don't look at it just physically.
It's your intelligence.
Yes.
Let's look at just one little example. In Syria, we've been told repeatedly that UN forces, humanitarian aid forces, the white hats, and so on and so forth, all say that Assad dropped chemical weapons on his own people twice. Incorrect. Do you realize that wasn't even U.S. intelligence? That was British intelligence both times. So it's your intelligence. And the British intelligence were obviously there filming it so that it would be exactly what they said they would. And it was embarrassing to see some of these propaganda films that they make and then say that this is some type of intelligence that's going to basically create military action, which is terrible. So what intelligence is there going on? You better get your sources of intelligence right, or else you're going to be in what is called the post-truth age.
You're in a propaganda trap.
It's called falsehood politics. They have defined it quite well. It's doublespeak. What does the Uniparty? I'm not going to just blame the Democrats in this statement, but what does the Uniparty always come out with John McCain being the leader of the Uniparty, as a matter of fact, a Republican? They always come out with the same things that come out of Hillary's mouth. Talking points. Have nothing to do with facts. Adam Schiff's response has no facts in it beyond Nunes' memo, and yet it tries to demonstrate with those facts the opposite. I've already seen, you already put it on Truth News headlines, Betsy, thank you. Because I was upset when I read the memo, and I thought, people might believe this. I'm going to write a response to it. Every line I'm going to show where that's a lie. And then I read Nunes' response, which I have to say, thank you. It was a measured response demonstrating that the 12 essential points that Schiff is trying to obfuscate and create disinformation and spin on is complete nonsense. He just says, no, here it is. This is what I said before, opposite of what you just said. And he calls them, this is a Schiff accusation. Here's the facts. And here's some more facts. And the facts are facts like, I guess he didn't listen to Christopher Steele's own testimony here in Washington, D.C. in his own case. I guess he didn't, know that Senator Grassley, it's as if Schiff is working in a vacuum. But that's what they do. And then echo chamber. And when Nunes came back and said, every major point you made is a lie. It's not even that you don't understand or that you have new information to present. He had access to those 2,000 pages. If Nunes is wrong, bring another piece of information from those 2,000 pages of evidence, Mr. Schiff, to show that anything that Devin Nunes said was wrong. Now, what he did take was Devin Nunes' whole memo and say everything was wrong, twist it up until he glued it all together with super glue and then gave it back and then later repeated, as I say, the echo chamber message for the mainstream media, which is disgusting lies.
Well, you see, he had that same intelligence information that Nunes had. Schiff had the same information. He comes away with something else because he doesn't have the capacity intellectually or curiosity-like, he doesn't have that capacity to want to look beyond the lies and see truth. He's being paid not to see the truth.
I believe Adam Schiff has never read that evidence because he says in his rebuttal to the Nunes memo, he says that Nunes wouldn't allow anyone to look at the evidence. Wrong. The Department of Justice and FBI limited it to only 4 people, 2 from each party, and their aides who could go look at it inside a skiff. Everything he said was a lie, as if we have no memory. I guess perhaps the people who elect people like him have no memory. They can't remember the lie that was said the day before. And there's so many lies and so much confusion. It's kind of like listening to Pelosi, who has declared in just the last 2 years that things that have happened had created Armageddon. We're in apocalypse, he says. Are you kidding? Really? Where's the apocalypse? Actually, America is turning on a dime and 180 degrees in the opposite direction, and the slow 100-year overtake of the Republic and the U.S. Constitution is being thwarted. The coup d'etat, which we point out all the time,
failed.
The secret society, the small group, the Mueller investigation, the Papadopoulos counterintelligence operation is still going on, and yet the coup is not taking place, no matter how many times Pelosi's teeth pop out of her head and she screams apocalypse, or how many lies...
Well, it's her personal apocalypse, because all of her lies are going to be caught up with. You know, the good people in California, may we suggest that you use paper ballots? And remember how we used to do in the old school days, Thomas? You know, you filled in with a pencil and you ran it through the scanner machine.
And the other side can count them, or you can count them, or you can get an objective party to count them. You can count them as many times as you want.
Right.
But as soon as you go to electronic, the man in the middle controls those numbers.
How about a little purple ink on your thumb for the day after you vote? Very simple. We can get away from the technology.
And, of course, voter ID, which is not connected to a California driver's license, but is, in fact, connected to what you have to get a job in America to show that you are either naturalized citizen, or you're in the process. I'm sorry. I've hired thousands, no exaggeration, thousands of people. I had to check every single one of them to see that they were, in fact, not an illegal alien. I don't know why that doesn't happen in every job.
So you've got Schiff. He's paid not to look. The information's there. And he creates his own fake report, fake memo.
And the only quotes you're going to be hearing now on the mainstream media is the rebuttal to the rebuttal written by Adam Schiff, which is a pack of lies. I'll make the bet. Yeah, I will make the bet. Every single word, every single line, every single complete sentence, I'll put it that way, in his second rebuttal is a lie, and I can prove it so. And that's what's going to go on the news, is the mainstream media is going to take those lies and put it on the news and say, you see, nothing here, go away. No, a conspiracy to the top, right to Obama, now because of things like what Susan Rice has done and others. And it's going to all come unraveled. And now, remember, Dan Coates, the head of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, only has about a week longer before he has to have a plan to give to Trump on how there's going to be no more surveillance of Americans illegally. When that happens, I can't imagine the transformation. That means Facebook could close down. That means Google has to be scrubbed.
I want you to talk about this more. We should have done a separate video on this. But this report could come back. Have they looked at our audios and videos and the uncovering we have done on leader technologies?
Yes, we do know. We do know that it went up through certain people whose names I won't mention here, but let's just say people very close to Trump. We have absolute confirmation of that. So we do know that they have seen that. But the point is will they act on it? And the point is there a political atmosphere in which to have a victory? Trump is about victories and deals. But you see, he knows where the deal is going, and he knows when someone is full of BS. And he knows the Democrats are full of BS about DACA, about writing new immigration law, about writing new laws concerning gun control, about all these things. They want to go back to the uniparty agreement that we do nothing ever, and we just argue with each other and read the lines that we're supposed to read.
Before I get scolded on taking you off the point, because I thought it was such a good track, I really want to go into that weed patch. And that's about Dan Coates having to come back with a plan on how intelligence communities are going to be handled. And that should be coming up pretty soon.
Yes, and it will be directly linked to what we're talking about here, because what we're talking about here is FISA Court Title I for Page, FISA Court 702 for the international interception of what George Papadopoulos was doing.
Yes, but how is that related to the social media, Facebook, Google, and all that they've been doing in the way of spying on us and collecting information?
Well, everyone now knows, because even the executive heads of these groups, everything from YouTube to the algorithms for Google, how they actually are a monopoly and how they have been a monopoly. Facebook is, in fact, a PSYOPs operation in conjunction with the NSA and the CIA, and they all use it because it's they sell it to everyone for commercialism, and then they attempt to control people. And that's ran through the Global Engagement Center, as we've said. They've admitted that they do this. They say they are in 100% link. So If Dan Coates does his job, he'll come back and say, Mr. President, I'm afraid you better sit down, sir, because what I have to tell you is very shocking. Let me just say to you, it is effed. As you know from the Inspector General's investigation of FISA court, the FBI was in 100, if not 150% noncompliance with pulling warrants to surveil anyone. As you know, James Clapper lied, and then he lied repeatedly, and he's been doing nothing but lying ever since. All Americans are surveilled at all times in so many ways, sir. I cannot tell you. Vault 7 should have revealed it to you, sir, that there are over 50 methods out there. Now, some of them are public through Palantir, training the public, particularly the corporate world, how to use what is called open source works, which Nellie Orr was an expert on, and then she went to work and used that against Trump through Fusion GPS. So those things are all available, sir. I'm sorry to have to tell you, your telephone call is being listened to by anyone who wants to listen to it. Because it's all open, sir. There's a backdoor in everything, sir. So to correct it, very simple, sir. The monopolies, Google, as you know, sir, the internet is actually run by the government. Shh, I don't know. Did the FCC tell you this? If they didn't, I'm going to whisper this in your ear. Shh, sir, you own all the lines. And you own all the Wi-Fi and space that Eric Schmidt and Alphabet put up there. So basically, you could turn the internet off, sir. And when you turn it back on, you can make sure that Facebook and no one else has access to anybody. It's very simple, sir.
And half the people in America won't care what you do to them as long as they don't lose their connection to Facebook and Wi-Fi.
And, sir, with the Miller Act, and because we found where the real scalability came to go from just group works to global works, and the geniuses who created that, well, we owe them a bunch of money. If you sign this check right here, sir, then that authorizes me to go on ahead and seize the funds of all of the fake monopolies created by a cabal of patent thieves, including James Chandler, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and a whole bunch of other very evil people that you know very well, sir. So we can seize all of their assets instantaneously because of your executive order of December 21st, 2017, and through the U.S. Marshals and the U.S. Treasury Office of Intelligence and Analysis, so, as you full well know, sir. So we will seize all of their assets, and then we will simply pay the bill, put them on trial, and they're probably all going to jail because of the monopoly RICO collusion, sir, that has reached to the entire globe. So we need to basically call it all back, nationalize it, sir, and then when we send it out, we'll make all of that money. These fake monopolies that have driven our economy with a fake market, sir, that will all be corrected.
With the ultimate goal, because we have seen the patent that they actually hold is Richard C. Walker.
Yes.
We've seen the patent, and it is horrendous. It puts us in a digital state of fascism. And for this reason, people, don't interrupt me yet, Thomas.
I wouldn't interrupt you, sir.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot I was Donald. Okay, no, I don't want to play that awesome, amazing role. Folks, this is a digital pitchfork and torches. So if you're thinking along with Betsy that war has elevated itself from the physical battlefield to an informational battlefield, this is the information we've been giving you, that you can take your pitchfork in one hand and your torch in the other, and you can shove it up there where the sun don't shine, and let's take them down with this information. We can do it, people. We can sit in our armchairs and we can take the pitchforks and torches to Washington right now. So how do you do it, Thomas?
Well, I don't know the name of that celebrity, but she just said she didn't like one of these fake social media platforms, and they lost.
Oh, it was Linda Rothschild.
Well, no, she said that
else?
too.
Oh, okay.
This is an American. I think it's part of that. The most popular people on Instagram and Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to mention their names because I don't like to give those people credit. But they simply said they didn't like something. Over $1 billion was lost on that platform in one day on trading. So if Americans get together and say, dude Zuckerberg, tomorrow we jump to a free system with no advertising, no commercial psyops, no military psyops tomorrow, and we're going to transfer all the information over so it will go without a blink, because we're going to turn it into a U.S. utility and stop lying about the fact that we taxpayers paid for it in its inception from DARPA.
Exactly. And they stole the technology.
And then we pay right now. Who do you think? Who is supporting Amazon? That would be CIA. If they hadn't come in with, what was that, a $600 million contract?
Yeah.
So, who is supporting Facebook? Facebook, I've never seen an advertisement hardly on Facebook. That's a lie. So who is supporting it? It's a PSYOPs exercise being supported by a very small group of people who bought into these companies before they went up on the stock market and got their IPO, and then they turned their millions into billions. We've named them before. If we could take out these 36 people, it would change the entire world. This wouldn't just change America. This would change Russia and China also, instantaneously. These people are, and we're not naming Rothschilds or Warburgs or Lehman Brothers or any of the Solomon Brothers.
Come down.
They're all there too. No, this is a corrupt group of incredible criminals. We'll name them, a few of them. Mueller, do you recognize his name? How about Comey? How about Rosenstein? How about McCabe? Any of them criminals?
Yeah, but, Thomas, the thing is that they do all fall down because they have all their money sitting in these fake rigged stock market. Money has to find a place to land. So they've put it into Facebook stock. So when it all falls, folks, not only does dude Zuckerberg get on his knees, so does Mueller, because maybe he's invested in Vanguard.
And every judge that has stock in Facebook that made rulings that made sure that Leader Technologies didn't get their money, and that IBM Eclipse Foundation, who stole that technology. If you look at Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, PayPal, any of them, they were all developed after IBM Eclipse Foundation gave out the technology, the source code that they're built on, so that you could have scalability to reach the globe in billions, not just a few. That was the biggest invention of our age, and they couldn't hold back. So what they did was they said, well, we're going to invest in this, and then we're going to know it's going to be a success, because basically there are monopolies in each of their areas, and we'll have so much money, because with that money that we get by going public, we're going to buy all of our competition. Like Peter Thiel says, all of these Silicon Valley cardboard cutout boy kings insist that what they do is a monopoly. Period. Buy all competition, wipe them out. Those are his words. There can only be a monopoly in our business. That's his words. Why? Because they work for the government. Their biggest contracts are non-bid contracts. If the government pulls that out, you know how much money they have to invest in even a better system? And let's just admit it, folks. If they just stand back, they'll have to admit that the Highland Forums, In-Q-Tel, Leidos, SAIC, DARPA started all of these. They had them. They worked directly with IBM Eclipse Foundation. And then now what you point out, the Internet of Things, Richard C. Walker has a fascist patent that makes one particular group in control of everything from the QRS-11 that can take down a plane or a train or a car, to all information streaming through the U.S. Digital Service, which was used to rig the election by Obama directly in the White House. All of those things are congealed into one central, what they call focal point, focal node. And from there, they have aggressive control and manipulation of everything under one patent. This is bigger than even Eric Schmidt and Alphabet and his robot wars. This is the entire control of the human being through Wi-Fi platforms, beaming Wi-Fi down all over the earth, and human beings are being basically cooked in 5G. But better than that, they can implant any single narrative network that they want in your brain. This is a complete control of all human beings on the earth as wet work with implants that are responding to these Wi-Fi platforms.
Most people won't look at the evil in the world, Thomas, because it is so huge, and it's just take it from all the words that we can't say or will be taken off of YouTube, right? To where we're talking about right now, this digital fascism. It's just heinous. So what we're doing is we're saying that Gordian knot is just too big and ugly to untie. We can't do anything about it. But what we have done is we've given you a pair of really sharp scissors. Don't say anything. Let me talk, please. The sharp scissors is the Miller Act. It cuts it. We get rid of these people and their evil machinations. But we need your help. You have to use the social media platform that you're still able to use and push this out. Make sure that you let your congressman know that you demand that this thing be done. Send your thoughts to the White House. Now, I'm finished. Say what you need to say.
No, that's a good point, because I was getting very depressing there, but I was getting ready to say, now, how can Dan Coates fix that? Easy! Elon Musk is a fake. That's our tax dollars. Why is a corporation sending all those Wi-Fi satellites up there and going to Mars and all this kind of nonsense? Because it would never be passed in a budget through the Congress. So we use corporations, and then we pay them with incentives in all of these programs that Obama built. So Elon Musk, everything he does, that's your tax dollars, y'all. Now, how did Eric Schmidt already get his... I could tell you the number, but it could get us in trouble. I'm one of the only people that said this until the last few months. Now it's everywhere. Eric Schmidt and Alphabet, that's one of the reasons he's hiding, already has, for the military Wi-Fi satellite platforms, a good number of them in fields of military theaters. And they've been active for a long time. It's called full spectrum space routers and space servers. And he has been in control of that market for some time. Elon Musk, as we have pointed out before, is now competing with him. And they're just going to put these satellites up there poking holes in our ozone every time they send something up. And who cares? Nobody's checking them because they're a corporation. This is the evil of corporations. Dan Coates needs to say, no more contracts to any corporations that are not military controlled. That includes Lockheed Martin, who steals trillions, and Boeing, who steals trillions, and all the people who make our weapons, like Raytheon, like Dynacore. No, stop all of that. No more corporate intelligence. Chop off, as you said with the scissors, 65% of corporate intelligence.
Now,
yes.
That doesn't mean that if you work for Raytheon, that you're going to be without a job, because jobs and skills will still be needed in a restructured organization.
But the people at the top won't be ripping off the government.
Yeah,
That's the
so
point.
I just want to make, if you're an average dude, you're working at Raytheon every day, taking care of your family, we just have to get this thing restructured so that the country runs for the benefit of the people, not the criminal cabal.
This is economic espionage and sabotage by our own military-industrial complex that's been going on. We now know, of 21 trillion off-book black ops money that's been spent, that Catherine Austin Fitts even got a professor in Michigan and a whole group of people to analyze and say, oh yeah, it's exactly as she says. Right. 21 trillion. That's right. Our debt, folks. Well, we owe 21 trillion to the Fed? No, we don't. They're a fake corporation. We can write that off. There's ways to solve all of these problems very, very, very simple. So when Dan Coates comes back, he has to say, no more FISA. If they want a warrant, do it the old style. No more corporate intelligence. No more corporate interference. Get them all out. If they haven't taken vows like military people take, which can put them in jail, hang them, shoot them for their treason and sedition, which is happening in the FBI, Department of Justice every day as standard operating procedure we now see from the stuff that has been revealed. We just need to cut back the federal government and get rid of all corporate contracts, because those same corporations have contracts with our enemies, and that's a fact. They actually are. They built in Russia, they build in China, they build everywhere. They don't care. They are corporations. Dan Coates has the opportunity to come back and tell Trump, and Trump won't accept anything that is anything less than no more surveillance. Will Dan Coates be completely honest? I don't know.
We the people should ask for nothing less.
No more surveillance.
No more surveilling U.S. citizens.
And no
Stop
more...
all the junk about all the guns. I have a Second Amendment right and it needs to be enforced totally and completely without it being chipped away. And I also have a First Amendment right to say what I want to say. And if YouTube can't handle it and thinks Grandma and Grandpa here have inappropriate content, then we need to just cut the cord, stop funding them, and do it ourselves, people.
Precisely. And the Miller Act allows the government to open up alternatives where everything could be shifted over in one day, and the fake corporations would collapse, their assets would be seized, and people would be put in jail for their corruption. Because the corruption is so thick that they want to play like we, the people, don't own the lines that AT&T, Horizon, and Sprint and everyone else claim to be their lines that the internet travels on. Lies! 37% of it is owned by U.S. taxpayers. We need to stop creating monopolies for corporations that are too big that they don't even put in bids anymore. Look at Halliburton. Look at the Carlyle Group. Look at... Don't even get me started.
No, I won't. But I think it's time that we wrap it up.
Thank you all. And just remember, if you start to read the stuff on the Nunes Schiff memos, don't believe a word. Don't even read Schiff's stuff. It is so full of lies it'll confuse you. So thanks, Betsy, for bringing this topic up today.